Yes, and I have
Oh,
started.
oh, good. So, cool. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So, thanks so much, everyone, for joining. It's a very late notice. I mean, just right after holiday in New Zealand. So, just back to work, and we didn't get a chance to promote in myself. And but thanks so much for coming, and for people who will watching it later. Thanks so much. So, Prithia, thank and Gilda, it's great to present for your user group, and I think this is my first time presenting here. So I'm really happy about that. So all of the introduction was presented. So most of people know me as Leila working in Radacat. And my interest is always about using AI and big data, how we can bring AI for the data purpose. And I was kind of involved with that for many years. So one of the things that actually I'm working a lot on that is about using the pre-built tools inside other data tools that we have. That's actually using this time I'm going to look at the machine learning process that we are going to use it for our data. So machine learning process is so clear. We get data from somewhere. It can be Cosmos DB, data warehouse, and other ones. And then we prepare the data, build and train the model, and deploy it. We already heard about that. But we also have a really good tools on Microsoft Azure named Azure Machine Learning Workspace that actually provide lots of facility for us. So it's a bit different from the previous generation of the machine learning that we have that was Azure Machine Learning Studio. Here we have a huge compute system. We can run different model at the same time. We access to the our own model, or we can bring other people models from TensorFlow and the other and deploy it, use it as a kind of use it in a huge range of the production using Azure Kubernetes one, or we just use it for our internal usage using Azure CI. So that's a really good tool becoming now. I mean, after a while, Microsoft really did a good job to bring a real data science workspace for people. Uh, so there are three main components there. If I want to summarize that, there are three main editor or place that you can actually create your model over there. One of them is automated ML. So automated ML have been used widely, not just for the business user inside Azure ML, but also, for example, in Power BI, I will show you that actually use that one. So for that one, you don't need to know anything about machine learning concepts. I mean, just a bit little about them. You don't involve with all of the process of the machine learning. It just a click, 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 and you done that. The other one is Azure ML Designer. That's actually, you see, I put the logo of the icon beside that. That's Azure ML Designer, or similar to Azure ML Studio that we have before. It's a drag and drop environment. It's a low code. Still, you need to know some machine learning about that, but definitely not as the other one that is Azure Notebook. That's kind of the similar to Jupyter Notebook. You can write your whatever you code you like over there. You have over control your machine. You can bring most of the libraries in Python and R and use there and create web service. So as you can see, for we have an environment for business user, for developer, and for data scientists. So again, it's covered a huge range of the people, from a citizen developer to actually the actual developer that doing the machine learning. I'm going to kind of the first one. I'm going to talk about the first one, that is automated ML. For doing the machine learning, for example, we want to predict that what's the car price. So we may have some different features over there, as you can see. For example, how much the mileage, what is the condition of the car, what is the car brand, and other. These are the features that we think can impact on the price of the car. The next step is about algorithm. That can be really challenging even for data scientists that they work for a long time. So which algorithm fits which data set? And of course, each algorithm has their own parameters. So it's talking about how we set the parameters. That also really matter. So how automated ML works? So automated ML is actually automate this process. For example, for the first run, it's going to select some of the features based on some algorithm, then apply an algorithm to them with specific parameters and come up with some accuracy. For example, 30%, 60%, 50% accuracy. In the next stage, it's going to try other features with different algorithm, with different parameter setting, and it's come up with the other. So this is going to automate that. So this process is actually, if you want to do it by yourself, writing the codes for machine learning and algorithm, you have to follow this process yourself. I mean, this is the things that sometimes we do it ourselves. Yes, there are some rules, there are some statistics rules, which algorithm fit which data set, how to set parameters. But to be honest, in some scenarios, we have to try different combinations. So automated ML is actually automated this process, automated the process of selecting the which features we want, which one is much more important. The selecting of the algorithm, selecting of the parameters, which parameters are much more important. So that's a process that actually we have. So this is automated ML that we have it. So it's kind of going to get the data and that. So we are going to see that inside. Before I'm going a bit deeper, let's have a look through the Azure ML one. So I'm just going to here. So to start, first of all, of course, let me also enable my zoom in tools. So first of all, you need to have a Azure ML component. So you need to create a source. If you search for Azure ML, you will see that is actually we have space. We have a component name Azure ML. Sorry, just let me do it again. Azure Machine Learning. So if you search for Azure Machine Learning, you will see that we have a service on that. So I'm already create one. So I'm just going through here. And after that, you're able to launch the Studio. So before I'm going there, so when you create your Azure ML, some of the resources like the storage and the other also install through that. So it's not just that, because we need the storage, we need some other components that has been installed via that. So here is the environment of the Azure ML machine learning. So as you can see over here, we have different components like notebook that I already talked about that. We have automated ML that's going to talk about, and the designer. So what I'm going to do actually through that one, I'm going to kind of create a machine learning model over here and then consume it inside Power BI. So there are many ways to consume inside the Power BI. I'm going to show you the developer part. So we are going to see first how automated works, and then we're going to see the different ways of consuming this model inside Power BI. One of them, we just one click with a premium account. Another one is a pro user. I'm going to show you how you can do that. So for automated ML, I'm just going very fast about that. So you need to create a new job. You need to select your data. So select the data assets that you have, or you can create. If you want to create, so you can put a name like test. I'll just put it that one. And then you have the option to get the data from your Azure storage, from your local computer that I don't recommend for the process, from SQL Server, from Azure SQL Open Data Source, and also from web. So these are the places that you can import your data through here. I'm already created one, so I'm using the one that I'm getting the data from my local computer for these tests. And here I need to put a name. I can use the new one. So I call it Titanic 12 of Jan, for example. Here is actually, these are the data that I have. So these are the simple data that I have. So it's a simple data set. So I'm going to predict people survive or not on the Titanic data set. You need to choose your compute or your virtual machine. So we have two type of was in compute cluster and compute instance. Compute cluster we using when we want to train the model. So we using compute cluster because we are going to maybe have different cluster and different nodes of the data to train the model. And sometimes it take time and sometimes we need some parallel processing together. So I'm use that one. You can choose the specification that you have, or if you're not happy, you can create a new one. Again, it's similar to the virtual machine that we have. There are some uh, uh, different ones. You can, as you can see, there are lots of options with the different settings that you can choose. So definitely it should be as much as the better one. So it's become faster. You're running your model is faster. I just use the one of them with a, I think the specification is 8 CPU cores, 56 gigabyte and 400. So I use this one. So definitely if you choose the better one, you need to pay higher. So this is just a very simple of using that. So this is for business user. We don't go through that much detail of that. So as you can see here, it's become so simplified. You want to do classification, you want to do regression. So as you can see here, so there are a couple of types. So classification, regression, time series, natural language processing, and computer vision. So all of the algorithm has been categorized in 5.1 to be clearly understand for the business user. So and definitely they need to know that. For example, and also it's provide a really clear explanation. If you want to use the classification, is this example you want to predict of the several categories that is yes or no or categorical, or if the regression is a continuous. So you see that it's become so simple to use. For this scenario, I'm going to use the classification, but still I want to apply some knowledge on that. So it's going to apply my algorithm on my data, and it tried multiple algorithm with multiple parameters. At the end, it gives me a metrics to show me which algorithm works better. So this is a primary metrics that I have to choose. I have under the curve weight. That's one of the approach. We examine a model in machine learning is working well or not. I can use the simple accuracy, average precision score weighted, or Markov recall. So there are a couple of them. You cannot choose them. That's a kind of the bad side of that. These are the least. So I just leave it with that. You want to explain the model, so you can have it at the end is actually explain the model, why this model better than the other, so you get explanation. And or you can ask to support all of the model, or you can ask to not run all of the model. For this one, because I don't want to take too much time, so I just going to disclose everything. So here, these are the algorithms that if I don't select them, they are going to apply to my data. Because it takes a lots of time, I kind of block most of them. I just leave one of them. It's still, I think it takes time, but we just try it. So that's a one. So I just say, yep, I don't want to run that. Uh, Another one is actually you ask you that how much your training would you got. So the maximum training is 6 hours. You can limit that one to be, for example, the minimum one is 30 minutes. it still is sometimes go a bit over on that. So it's going to run your model for 30 minutes because it's not just one model, it's different parameters. So that's why it's taking time. And also it's going to do the hyperparameter checking, feature selection, and all of the process for machine learning. You can apply that. You can have multiple iteration. So running the model in different iteration. Difficult is one, but you actually, as you can said, you can have a couple of them in the different clusters. So the maximum is 100. So not more than 100. You can do the similar iteration, but it's actually help you to do it faster. So I just put it 2. I save it. So these are the old setting. As you can see, as a business user, I'm not involved that much. I just maybe get some hint of, okay, how much time I want to. I'm not going to deep through that one. So I save and it's going to the next. You can choose the validation type to be, again, that's some, it's combination of the technical and test. You can actually provide a test data set if you have first. I don't have it now. So I'm start that one. So if it's running, I'm just going to show you the one that I just run it and show it to you. I think that's one. So I already just couple of before we start, I just run it again. So this is the similar to that. So as you can see, after it's finished, I get this page. So this page, what is saying that actually how long does it take? Because I put 30 minutes, it's finished at 30 minutes. So it can go longer, but I finish it sooner. Then it actually shows me the duration, some very simple things here. But also I want to look at the process that machine learning done over here. So one of the things is actually done is actually do the validation on splitting the data. So the input data has been splitted or for the test and training. So these are the one that actually before the algorithm apply has been done. The other one is the class balancing detection because I have two options for people survive or not survive. So sometimes, for example, if in my data set 90% of the data is about people not survive and just 10% is about survive, so it's becoming unbalanced. So there needs some analysis to do that to make it balanced, because then my algorithm become biased about that. So it's going to kind of do some process through that. So it's actually going to check that one. So my data is good regarding that. Missing features value. So it's going to look at the missing data value, if it's going to remove them and do something about them. But actually you can add more detail through that. And so it's going to do some data things. After that, there is another tab that actually shows all of these are not just the algorithm. As you can see at the bottom, 2 page of the different runs. So these are combination of the algorithm. The algorithm was KNN for this process that I choose with different parameters. So it's come up with about, I can say, 50 different models for me. And because I choose, if you remember at the start, I choose the AUC, the under the cave, is the measure for me to see that if the algorithm works in well or not. You can see that's actually sorted based on that. So the base algorithm is this one. And as you can see, it's put it in the higher one. Because I didn't do the provide any test data set, so it says the sampling is all of my data. I just provide all of my data and the training happened then. But the best approach is to provide the test data sets. So let's have a look on the base algorithm to see that how it actually works. I'm going to click on that, the explanation. So this is the explanation of why that algorithm is better than the others. As you can see, the one that I run still is running, and it definitely take 30 minutes to run. So let's have a look on the explanation of the algorithm. It's take a bit time to load, so I'll just wait. At the same time is loading, you already able to check each algorithm. So you can kind of just click on each of them and see the one. Okay, so this is explanation of that. So the first one is actually kind of the going to find the top important features that we have over here. So as you can see, we have 3 features, just gender of the people that's going to the Titanic, their passenger class, and their age. As you can see, the most important thing in PANT is the gender. So that was the rule that they first help people to survive. So that's a one. Another one is the model performance. So it's actually is going to show you some of the specification of the model performance, like different measure of the accuracy, precision, recall, and other false positive rate, and the other measure for that one. And you can actually see that over here. Also, it's going to do some data exploration, that how our data regarding, for example, the passenger class has been do that. So another analysis through that. And also is going for the each kind of the model is going to shows that one. So for example, you can choose, I want to choose the importance of the gender. So you can see that how it actually is impact on the prediction. So let's provide there's some reasons why is actually choosing that model over here. So I'm just back to the model. Of course, you can check the output and other things behind the scene that run. You can check the Python code behind that. Most of the things, most of the process happen over here. They actually use the library, a package that in Python it already exists, named Azure ML. So everything that I'll be doing by click here, the behind the scene is the Azure ML library in the Python that you can actually do it yourself. So as you can see, I can just show to you that Azure ML train.automated ML. That's a library that actually we set it over here. So as you can see, I can go a bit some validation. I just want to show you the training part. So that's a training part happens. So the everything, so it's not just click. You can actually use that one to kind of run. I will show you later. So after that I come up with that, imagine that I'm do very great job on that, and now I want to create a web service out of that. I want to use it in other applications. For example, in my example, because I'm the Power BI user, I want to use it. So what I'm going to do, I can deploy it. So for the each model, so I'm going to the model that I already have it. So let me go to the model. So the best model, that was this one. I'm able to deploy it as a real-time or web service. So I'm going to use it as a web service. So it's ask me, I call it Jan. The compute type, because this is not for I'm not going to use it as a kind of for the big organization and use it widely for now. But if you want to use it, you can use AKS compute, or you can, for this process, I'm going just to use Azure Container Instance. You can provide the key for that I just ignore it. I'm going to deploy it. So it takes a bit time to deploy it, but at the end, on the here, you can see the result of the endpoint over here. So I've already create this one. So it's actually, which is a good one. So you can test it. It gives you the REST API. I didn't enable the key. If you enable the key authentication, you can see the key. The good part is that you actually get the sample code to that. So I actually use this sample code to doing that. So let me show you that after that how I use it in Power BI. So my model is created. My model, I can test it. So I can provide the passenger class. I said female, age is 23, and I said test. So I know that is kind of the working. So this is my API. So it shows that it's working. I change it with a different. Yeah. So 1 means people survive. 0 means didn't survive. So it works in that scenario. And this is the sample of the call that I have. Okay. I want to use it. I have 2 options. I have 2 options to use it in Power BI. just back to my Power BI over here. If I want to use it in Power BI, I need to go to the Power Query. So I need to go here, click on transform the data, bring my Titanic dataset over here and go over here. If I have a premium account, it's easy one. Just I need to go back to my Azure ML environment. I need to go to the subscription that I have. I need to connect my premium account in Power BI with my Azure ML. So I need to go to over here and to the access control, to the role assignment. I need to connect my Power BI account that I have. So I have two Power BI accounts. So one is Power BI MVPs and Radacad over here. These are my, so in the Radacad, I have a trial one. In the Power BI MVPs is the one that actually I'm using. You can connect here. So you need to define your Power BI account over here. So your Power BI premium account can be recognizable by Azure ML. After that, also you need to do another one for your Azure ML. You need to do the same. So I need to go to here again to the access control, and you need to do the role assignment and again define that one over here. Sorry, I mean this one. So these are the two practice you need to do that. Unfortunately, my account is a bit different. So that's for no code. If you have a premium one, you're lucky, you can click on the Azure Machine Learning, you sign in over here and you see your model over there. Mine is a bit get some problem today morning. This is the one, you can use it. I'm going to talk about the hardest part. That means that I don't have a account for that. I'm already create some web service in my Azure. I don't have a premium account. I have a pro one or the free one, and I want to use it over here. I don't want to use these features. So I'm showing you if I don't access to the premium account, how can I do that? So it's like an API call. So in Power Query, you can call API call from anywhere, even from Google API. You can bring the data. I have an example that I'm working on that I pass the search from here to the Google search, image search, and I call it over here. So you can call any API that you want, same as Azure ML. So what is happened? To do that process, I use the really good actually tools name Postman. So that's I need to update it. I didn't do that, but still we can use it. Let me bring it over here. Okay. So what I did actually, I used the API call as a pause and as a URL over here. Let's back to my URL that I have over there. So let me go to my URL here. So this is my URL that actually as an endpoint I can use. So I use this software endpoint and I pass two header that is a content type. So if I look at that, the content type over here, the content type is application.json, and also I need another header for that is authorization. That is actually it's your, if you have a key you can use that one that I don't have it now. So that's the two headers that you can add it. Then you just simply need to copy the kind of the body of that to create a API over there. After that, I back to my Power Query over here. I'll just show you this one first. So what I did, I just explained very fast. I know so many of you maybe not the Power BI user, but I just explained very quickly. So what I did, let me start from scratch. So I create a new blank query over here. So when you create a blank query, you're able to see the code behind that, but click on Advanced Editor. So you see the simple things that are let and in. This is the M language. So I just change a bit of that. So what I did actually, I put a URI that I have as a score. I use the function name web content. and I pass the URL over here. So I pass the URL over here. For me, authentication is the barrier API. I have the blog post about that. I will share it with you so you can use that one. The content type as the header is a JSON. So I'll define a list of the header. And after that, I need to define what the body should be look like. So I need to get a passenger class, the gender of the people, their age, and other information. So these are the things that actually I provide. After that one, here. After that, also I need to define some parameters over here. So I easily just define some parameters over here, like for example, age, I call it age and I put it that, so it's become something like this. I define age, gender, and passenger class. And I include them, all of them over here. So after that, now I can right click here and create a function out of that I already do. So it's become like a function over here. So I create a custom function. Again, don't worry about the process. I explain it in the video and also into the blog post. So I will share it so you can actually use it. Now this is my data set, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to invoke the custom function. So I already create a function that I can specify which one I want to use. So age, hope that the data type is correct. I'm not sure about that. I need to double check, but I think it should be. Oh yes, the data type is not correct. So maybe I use this one. To me. Apply here. Because in the when I created that, I didn't set it properly to be text integer. So all of them unfortunately is text, which is correct, but I just I need to kind of be same as the one that I defined in Azure ML. So here for the gender, again, I choose the one, and for example, passenger class should be text. So after I run it, it's going to connect to the my Azure ML1, and if you look at the result, it's actually bring the result. This is for about just 200 rows of the data, so it's getting very fast. When it's more rows of the data, more than kind of the 10,000 rows or 11,000 rows, is getting a bit slower. But as you can see that actually you can have it over here. I'm saying that it's not just limited to that one. I can, if I have the example of the Google one, I can show you the one that I have it for the image search. So I can show you that one over here also. That's also really, so it's not just for Azure ML. Anything you can actually use it. Just this one, image. So this is the one that actually I'm using. So here I'm use the Google one. So it's actually I pass. This is for the example. We are working on helping people back to Iran that they are kind of prisoners because of the protests. So I'm going to use that one. So as you can see, I have a URL for the Google image and I bring it over here. So it's not just about Azure ML. You can bring everything over here. The Azure ML wasn't the example that I showed to you. So this is one of the usage of Azure machine learning over here. So now let's back to the some more complicated one. So the one that I'm talk about that is having a kind of the easy one. Now let's have a look on the one that actually can be a bit much more challenging. So let me bring one that is about the prediction. Another place that actually we can do machine learning is kind of the using the Azure machine learning and Python inside notebook. So here is actually you can use it. Let me find the one that I actually already created. Just let me check where is. So me go ahead again. So here I'm going to talk about notebook over here. So you can create a notebook, create a new file. You can have Python, R, and the other over here. So I'm going to use the Python over here. So you get an environment of the Python that you can actually run any code in Python over here. So it's similar to actually to the Jupyter notebooks, so similar to that. And as you can see, is actually is connected to the Jupyter notebook kernel. So as you can see, so is the environment, you can write as much as code you want to have done. So you can have a combination of the code and also the text over here. And that's the environment that you can actually run the code. I just want to show you the automated email that I have. I hope that I have it over here. Maybe I can use some of the problems that we saw. Okay, so you see that as a business user, we do everything with a click and click. Now, I'm going to show you that actually these are the things can happen inside with a code. So for example, here we are going to use the Azure ML.ai. That's a library that we need to use in the Python. In the second steps, we need to provide our subscription ID or resource. So everything that's do it kind of with a without code is actually here. You can do it with a code. Define a compute cluster. What computer cluster you want. If you remember, I just select that. But here is a place that you can code it. You can set how many, what's the number of the instance that you want, what's the size of that should be. And so everything that we done over there can be done here with just code. Uh, so these are the training one. If I go a bit header, so that's a place for the training. You see that we can put the data for test and train and run it. So all of these places that I showed to you can be done. So this is for Azure ML and using Azure ML library in the Python. So this is another scenario, but again is not limited to that one. So you don't want to use anything in Azure and you already have a model and you just want to deploy it, that's also possible. So if I go to the my models environment over here, so these are the models that are already there, but I want to actually to bring my own model. So it can be a model through that. Let me see, there's a place that actually you can bring it over here. Doesn't shows me now, but there's a possibility that you can define that one. I don't have it in my computer now, but it's actually you can bring other one over here and you bring your own models over here that you created in other applications. So that's also possible. So these are the kind of the different components that we have over there. We have a designer. If you work with Azure ML Studio, that's a one that actually already over here. So you see that is actually how can cover the different part. So for the Azure ML, if you want to use it, because that's kind of really good, I just use it for one of our customer. So I just send the blog post about Azure ML. And to be honest, I'm bringing most of the cognitive services over here. There are some of them not supported in the uh, over here. So yes, we have text analytics over there that supports keyword extraction, sentiment, and the other. These are Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services one, but still some of them like translation and the summarization is not here, or the keyword, the entity extraction is not here. That you can call them. It's the same approach that I show you over there. So it's not just limited. These are the one, if you have a premium account, you can access. But if you don't have it, still you can use it. I have some blog posts through that. I'm going to bring all of them as a one package, hope soon, to show to the people that how without having a premium account, they can actually even they call their own web service, or they can call the Google one. Still, I'm working on that for the big data and to see that how it works. There are some problems through that. So I didn't talk about the problems that we have, that I have to use data flow for that. So uh, there are for a huge amount of the data. Sometimes, for example, if I have about 13 rows of the data that I apply machine learning or cognitive services on that, I have to cut my data to the different pile. I don't know why, but that's one of the problem that is actually couldn't connect that. So that's one of the problem you get for a huge amount of the data if you want to apply that. And another one is about the cost. So definitely you need to check the cost, that the cost that we have is actually back to the we're here to the Azure. So it's back to the cost of the compute cluster and compute instance that we have. So if I go to my compute instance that I have, sorry, compute cluster. So it's definitely back to that. So how much is cost of that? You definitely need to do that. If you going to run it to the kind of the using in the organization, definitely you need to check the cost of the virtual machine that has, and that's the only cost we have for Azure machine learning through that one. So this is a kind of the very end-to-end part of that. So if I back to the slide, so you see that how actually we can use different one for the Azure machine learning and how we can use it in the other application. I have some resources. If you want to read, I can kind of share them over here. So talking about Azure machine learning generally, how it works, I just share all of them over here if you're interested later on. And I have some videos and things about how we can run Azure machine learning for usage in other resources. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for listening to me. So let's have some questions.
Thank you. That was great. Were there any questions? I had one for you. I heard that you mentioned Postman. Is that something you'd recommend when working with APIs in Power BI, especially when you're trying to connect to Azure, using cognitive services or machine learning? Is that the best tool
That's
to
the one.
use?
Yeah, that's a really good one. For example, I use it, I'm recently using for the cognitive services. So this is for the summarization or image search. And I use it, and is, to be honest, is a really good one. It's helped me to have the, to test it over here. So for example, you can test it. So for example, here I use the cognitive services for the translation. I want to translate the name of the people from Farsi to English. So I want to test it to see this API works, and I can bring it into a per query. So I just put the headers and the test example, and I can see, yep, that's translated perfectly to English over here. So yes, that's I totally recommend for the, if you want to work with the APIs.
That's neat. And is it good to use also, because when I was running something on there, using Azure Cognitive Services into Power BI, I kept receiving a message, but I couldn't get much detail. Would Postman be able to show me more detail?
Yes, so exactly. And you can specify the parts and the parameters that you're passing to that. So it's actually help you to manage really good. And you can see the messages if something going wrong.
That is awesome. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Leila, I have a question also.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So my question might sound stupid only because I'm very new to ML. I've been in software engineering for about 2 decades, but ML is I'm just very new to it. So just trying to understand the example that you gave earlier a little bit better of the Titanic survivors. I guess what I followed was that there was a data source from your machine that basically had a gender and age and whether the person had survived or not. And through the training that was done through the ML, basically, I feel like maybe this is not a prediction model, right? This is basically figuring out what's happened as a historical data, and then being able to simply produce whether a certain age with a certain gender combination had survived Titanic in the history, right? Is that
So you mean that in the explanation or the algorithm? The algorithm was KNN. K mean cluster, K nearest neighbor. So it used the algorithm to do that. But to be honest, I didn't put it lots of features on that. There should be feature selection. I just disabled because I want to show it here.
right? Yeah. So I just want to get that clarified because I'm just sort of new to it, and I'm just trying to make sure that what I saw was actually I have a correct understanding of that. So
yes,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, if not, thank you, Leila. That was really great, and I will be, recorded, so I'll present the YouTube channel and I look forward to.
I think I don't
Okay,
have
I'm
your.
gonna stop that right now.